I'm going to now introduce the founder of the Settlement Project, the inspiration. I really have a great respect for him. So trust me, you're going to receive a lot of love and truth and wisdom. And again, the spirit is most important. And we're here because of truth. That's our interconnectionness. Please, now let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Frank Kaufman.
Thank you very much, Michael. I think I'm gonna retire from this because I don't like listening to your lectures, David. They make me feel miserable, mostly because they don't sound like they're that long ago. This is what's my difficulty. But we're here because there is a path through all of this. No matter how many times we'll see this same pattern, even perhaps a bit in our current time, or maybe a lot in our current time, the only reason we do this is because there's a path through it, and that's why we're working through the conversation today. So my mission is to explain the successful choices that happened in history as a response to injustice. All right, David was describing times in history when oppression, injustice, and inequality were in fact the case, genuinely the case, and there were philosophers that attempted to create systems to solve that problem. He called them secular philosophies, and we saw what happened in two examples so far. What happens when you try to respond to genuine human problems. The medieval times had a lot of corruption, the harmonization of clergy and monarchy to make life quite miserable for the people of the time. The problem is not trying to solve them. These must be solved. So my role throughout the conversation today is to introduce those responses to the same problems that had successes. So let's look at those. Okay, so the first part of what David introduced is the French Revolution. And the second part is, of course, we've studied also the Marxist Revolution. So I'm going to be touching on responses both for the French one and for the Russian one that were successful, that actually moved the needle more toward equality and the end of human suffering. The main thing I'd like to, as David already made clear, ideas have consequences. Harm from simple criminality does not need philosophies. It's just the fruit of bad human behavior. But if there's going to be mass incarceration, tyranny, control of people, genocide, these arise from philosophies and ideologies, and that's why we need to look at them. The outcome, depending on how one chooses their way, is either a path of totalitarianism, barbarism on the one side, or genuine progress in science and technology and virtue on the other. So how to improve society from a state, an undesirable state, to an improved state is an exact match for how you would approach the same problem in your own life. If there's a condition you're in, you want to make it better, there are simple common sense ways to do that. And this is the exact same way that you expand it or extend it or apply it to social reality. I improve myself. We know what works, we know what doesn't work. We've probably tried both, unfortunately. We should try one more often than the other, but we know what works. And we also know ways that fail. And in the case of trying to understand how societies and social philosophers try to respond to things that we want to make better, we have ways that they both may start off well. They may start off well, but they often end up in horrible outcomes, as we saw from David. Outcomes such as this. And these are people that, am I right, David? They may have started out well-intended. They were trying to correct genuine problems, isn't it? Hopes and intentions may not be bad at first. This is why early detection is needed. It's like a cancer patient. Early detection is needed, and that's why we're holding these seminars, in order to explain very early on. It's not early, it doesn't feel that early, sadly, presently, to me. Somehow we're like 30 years behind. We were asleep at the wheel, but still, hopefully, we haven't yet seen gulags. We have a small gulag in Washington, D.C. now, but we haven't seen them at the level that David's describing. So the purpose of these meetings is early detection, to describe how to identify whether or not an ideology is moving in one direction or another, toward improvement or toward despair. Once we know what we see, we have to have the courage to act and to uproot and eradicate harmful ideas from the very outset before they eliminate our future. One of the things that I'm critical of is how much time moral and conservative individuals spend in social media arguing with people you don't know. This is big. It's a phenomenon. And it would be fun. If we had the time, maybe it's fun. But we will lose our country if we persist in this. We can't say that the other side doesn't care. It's a useless argument. And the kind of endless efforts to control the narrative, to establish we care, you don't care, will never make any progress in what we need to do to recover and protect our country. What happens then is we end up in hundreds or thousands of tiring arguments. This one about conception, or when human life begins. That one about race, that one about immigration policy, and so on.